So I'm Aria Harding. I am a contemporary romance author, and I have five books out right now. I just published my fifth book called His Perfect Canvas. So it's kind of a more of an instant love type story, but I feel like it's like one of the reviews said it was like a Hallmark movie wrapped all in one, and I feel like that's very accurate for this story for sure.
It definitely is.
Yeah. Mhm.
What was your inspiration for his perfect canvas?
So these covers actually were it was a pre-made trilogy from the beautiful designer Haya in Designs. She made these, and I saw them on her Instagram post, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to have these!" And so I bought the pre-made covers, and I just kind of started telling the story. So it was the first time I've ever done that, but it was really fun.
That's an interesting way to do it because normally you do the cover after you
Yeah.
write the story. Drew you,
Yes.
what drew you to writing?
So I've always had a love for reading. Um, always have loved to read and kind of immerse myself in those stories. And so it was just kind of a natural progression of that, where I just kind of wanted to tell my own stories too. And so I was always drawn to the more romantic aspect of fiction. And I started writing when I was young, so probably like middle school. We don't talk about those books. um, but it just kind of has progressed over the years. And building the art of the finesse of telling a story for sure has just come with time and practice and all sorts of good stuff. Yeah.
Since you found the cover of the book first instead of writing the book first, how did you
Mm-hmm.
draw out the characters to center the story around?
So I I'll never forget when I just saw these covers, because it was just like I saw them and then it would like all of it came to me, especially at book two and book three of the trilogy. So I would say book two came the first, and I knew right away that the second book, who it was going to be about and how they were related to the characters of the first book. And then the characters of the third book came to me, and then the characters of the first book came last. So that was the most challenging part. Was I knew their names. I knew it was Emma and Julian, but I didn't know who they were, and I didn't know what they were going to do. And so it was a little trickier, because I knew that what they had going in that first book had to kind of correlate with what I had planned for book two and then book three. So it was fun kind of weaving that all together. They're kind of just a stepping stone for the whole trilogy.
What's your process for writing your books then? Was it different for this trilogy than from your other books you've written?
Um, in some ways, yes. Where usually I have something that inspired or starts the process. Uh, so in this case, it was those pre-made covers that kind of started it for me. This one was it was a little bit differently because I really didn't know a lot of what happens in the second half until I got through it. My process is generally, I know the beginning, I know the middle, and then I know the end. And I really didn't with this one. So it was tricky, for sure, to kind of go through the process and figure out what these characters were doing and how they would get to the point that they did, for sure.
What's your approach for world and character building?
Um, so the biggest thing for me is, and this has come from, working with a lot of really amazing editors too, where it's just like, what is driving the character? Why are they feeling that way? And what do they do to kind of overcome it all? So, especially for these characters, I knew his whole arc a little bit earlier than I knew Emma's. And Emma, she came to me going through editing. I had a really amazing editor on this book, and she kind of really brought the sparkle to Emma for sure, because it was like, okay, she's here, but what is her purpose? Like, why is she here? Why do we care about her? And so it was trying to figure that out. So a lot of it, I know a general idea of these characters, but a lot of the depth comes in various drafts. And it comes from like really digging into the character for sure
It's
through
in
editing and all sorts of fun stuff.
it's interesting that it comes out throughout the drafts. It's not like in
Mm-hmm.
the first draft. It's yeah, I know exactly who your character.
No, I was, I mean, even I don't know if you've read any of my other books. I just earlier this year I published my Logan Ryan duet, And those characters had been with me. They were some of the very first characters I ever wrote, and that was over 10 years ago. And even as I was going through the edits of these books that I just published earlier the year, I was still figuring things out about these characters 10 years later. And I'm like, how is this even possible? But it's part of the fun, really. It's kind of diving into it and getting into the psychology of the characters for sure.
It's definitely like a normal friendship as well. You're over the years, you start to learn, even 10 years later, you still get to learn your friends so much better and deeper than what.
Oh, it's so true. Yeah. Hmm.
Did you have a favorite moment in the book to write?
I did. It was the kind of the spicier scene towards the end of the book. That one was really fun because that was one of the scenes that kind of came to me later because that was after the whole conflict had kind of been resolved a little bit. So then it was just kind of the culmination of all of that. So satisfaction for the story kind of coming together, satisfaction for the characters kind of finding their way back to each other. So it was a fun one to write for
Yeah,
sure.
it was really great to read as well.
Yeah, oh, good.
How has writing and publishing books changed the way you see yourself?
So I've been kind of publishing for in different ways since, early 2010s. I was a Wattpad author, and then I did that for a few years. Then I moved to Inkitt, and I did that for a few years, and then I decided to start like independent publishing. So it has changed over the years where it's like I've always considered myself an author, but now I consider, it's more of a I'm trying to establish like a brand now, instead of just telling stories. It's kind of a bigger picture for sure now than it used to be, which is fun. It's exciting. It's also challenging. So, but I like a good challenge. So it's always really rewarding for sure.
All the marketing and like the social
Oh
media
my
to
gosh,
get it out.
nonstop. Yeah. Just trying to get people to pick up my book,
Yeah.
it's selling myself, my stories and selling my words really. So it's how do I convince these people that I have a story that's worth reading?
And it's so different to other books that are out there too. So it's like, I come read it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Where it's just like everybody likes to say, the indie market, especially romance, is really highly saturated right now, which it is, but it's not like there's any shortage of readers, and it's not like there's any shortage of people who are interested in telling the stories or reading the story. So it's just getting the characters and getting the book into the people that want to read it. And it's really fun, building those relationships, especially as a smaller author. What we're doing here is meeting people who have read the book and want to share the story and get to know the author. It's really fun for sure.
I definitely love doing this type of stuff. It's like, come share your book. I loved it, so you may as well.
Yeah. Well,
About it.
thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the invitation.
Are there any books or authors that inspired you to become a writer? Especially since you started writing when you were middle.
Yeah. Um, I don't I don't know if there was anyone specifically. I've kind of developed my favorite authors over the years. I attended a lot of author events when I was even young. Are you familiar with Ally Carter
Yeah.
and her books? Yeah. So I saw Ally Carter a few times here. And so she was really fun for me because I love the way that she talks about her characters
Mm.
because they are like real entities for her. And so it was really fun for me to kind of uh, see her a few years in a row, kind of, get that sense of what it means to be an author telling stories. And so she was really a big part of it at the early beginning. Now I'm a really big fan of, Debney Perry. I really like a lot of the other small town romance contemporary authors these days too.
What advice would you give to a writer working on their first book?
Just get the words out. It doesn't have to be perfect. It probably won't be perfect, and that's okay. Like it's definitely a process, and trust the process because part of the fun I think is getting that first draft and then finding the layers and the depth to it later because it's so much easier to kind of just get the story out and then figure out all the other moving pieces afterwards. And then also to find your group. So I have a really small group of author friends that are just, I mean, they're everything to me. I talk to them all the time. So I don't, they're online friends, but they're like a part of me now. So I can't imagine my life without them, really.
I love how supportive like the author community is
Oh my
and
gosh.
community in general are for each other.
Hmm. Absolutely. It definitely makes a huge difference for sure.
Did you have a piece of advice that stood out to you when you were writing that you've been given to a by like an editor or anyone?
Yeah, it was probably the why. It's why is this happening? Why am I reading this story? Why is this character doing that? And that I picked up from, my editors most of the time. And I've shared it with my author friends. And so now when they read a book for me, they'll just comment, they'll be like, why do I care? Which sounds mean, but like it's important for me to know where it's like, okay, valid. Why do you care about this character? Like I need to really build up that emotional connection right from the start so that you are invested with this character so that you do care what happens to them, you know? So, um, at my professional development team, like my editing team, I've worked with a few of them now. I mean, they're amazing. And it's very, very helpful to have someone who has a good sense for the industry, look at the book and be like, point out the weaker areas of it and say, this is where it could be stronger, or I want more from this character here. So that would be another piece of advice for anyone writing, where it's just like don't back out of the professional editors for help. I know it can be expensive, but it's well worth the price for someone with a very keen professional eye to take a look at a manuscript.
If you want to share it, you may as well save the money and up the money to actually
Mm-hmm.
want a professional to read it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because if you have a solid manuscript right from the start, there's no limits to where you could take it. I mean, we see that now with TikTok, and we see that with Instagram, where books that are published 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago are now just hitting it big.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that when you're publishing a product, it's going to be timeless for that, for sure.
Do you have a favorite writing snack or drink?
It kind of varies per book.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think. I don't even know if I had one for Perfect Canvas, but when I was writing my book Wonderstruck last fall, it was frozen bananas dipped in peanut butter and chocolate, and then it was iced coffee. It was tons of iced coffee, unhealthy levels of iced coffee. This one is probably, I guess, Perfect Canvas is probably Diet Coke. I'm a big Diet Coke girly, but it does vary. It depends on the mood.
Fair enough. That can't get bored of a snack or drink if it changes with the book.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Actually, yeah, I think I was a big Nutella fan. I've been on the Nutella kick. So that one I think is what
Do you,
Perfect Canvas's snack would be.
do you eat the Nutella with anything, or do you just eat the Nutella?
Pretzels. Well, depends on the day.
Fair enough.
Usually pretzels, but I've been known to just take a spoonful here and there.
Can't go wrong with just eating straight Nutella.
Right.
Do you play music while you write? And if so, do you have a favorite type of music?
Yeah, I have a whole playlist on YouTube that's just it's background music, so it's more like ambiance, it's more instrumentals. I cannot listen to word music while I'm writing. Now, I do have like playlists for each book that I write that's more, standard songs with lyrics that I feel like um, relate to the characters or relate to the books. But when I'm writing, it's going to be more instrumental music, and it just kind of varies.
I always, even if I'm reading, I always have something on in the background, so I definitely get the
Yes,
I need
yes.
something
You got
on.
to set the tone, got to set the vibe for it all. Yeah, it's great. And YouTube has so many good like channels for that, and really great playlists.
And my final question is, who has been the biggest supporter of your writing?
Um, I have had a lot of really close friends um, over the years, and so I think a lot of times my friends right now, my best friend Chris Wood, she's also an independent author. She's more of a fantasy, romance, fiction novelist, action, adventure, drama, all sorts of really fun things. She's been my friend now for uh, oh geez, has it been like I think 2 to 3 years? And right, she's my biggest supporter right now, where she's just like, anytime I'm feeling something or thinking something, I just shoot her a text. Her, and then my other really good friend Alice Daniels is a really amazing support. She's been with me since I first decided to officially publish, because I found her online and I was like, I slid into her DMs and I was like, hey, how do I do this? And so she gave me all the answers. And now Alice and Chris and are really kind of they're my crew, like my clan. And inside our little friend, I mean, I have a lot of other amazing author friends as well. Layla Starling, um, Tiffany, and Casey Leonard, who's starting out now. So we kind of have a fun little group going. But I think they're my biggest support at the end of the day, because they understand what it's like to be an independent author. They understand what it's like to struggle and know what it's like to try and put yourself out there when sometimes you just kind of want to curl in a ball and hide. So
It's perfect that you've
they're the
got
best.
people who know what it is as well, what you're trying to do. It's like and
Mm-hmm.
push each other and hype each other up as well, which is perfect.
Yeah, it definitely makes all the difference. Yeah. So I'm very grateful for all the people I've met along the way, because without them, it would be boring, you know?
And we wouldn't have your lovely stories to read as well.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. That's just an added bonus.
Added bonus.
An added bonus. Yeah.